first yoga video I'm posting. So hopefully you can all hear me. I'll talk loud enough over the music. And hopefully you'd like to follow me for a little 10-minute stretching routine that, let's face it, anybody can do at any point in your day. Because we all spend 10 minutes just, spacing off, looking at our phones, going through junk mail. We can at least give our body a 10-minute treat. So we'll start today standing on our mats. We're going to walk to the front of the mat in mountain pose. We're going to bring our attention to our breath as we focus on the inhale and exhale. We're going to float our joints over one another by stacking our head over our shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over knees, and our knees over ankles. Our feet are about hip distance apart. We're going to breathe in and out through the nose to warm the oxygen to prepare our muscles. Making an audible whisper so that we can keep track of our breath throughout our little routine. Initiating the breath with our belly, filling our bellies first, bringing the breath all the way to the base of the throat and exhaling in the same order. Bringing our navel towards our spine to really squeeze out all of the oxygen. Let's match this breath with an arm flow as we inhale our arms up over our head. And exhale, our hands touch and we'll bring our palms into heart center. Scooping our hands up, arcing overhead. Pressing our palms together. Exhaling our hands heart center. Getting a nice forearm stretch as we bring our hands down as we exhale. Once more. And as we exhale now, we're going to bend our knees, keeping our backs flat into chair position. Imagine tucking our tailbones under, our arms extend out from our shoulders, or we can leave our hands in prayer position, or rest our hands on the tops of our thighs. Imagine forming a straight line from the crown of our head to our tailbone. You can see our big toes, but perhaps not our little toes in this squat. Inhaling up into mountain. And as we exhale, we're going to put a slight bend in our knees, hinging from the hips, swan diving into a forward fold. Just letting our head hang down from our shoulders. Ragdolling forward. Making sure to protect the back of the legs by keeping our bent knee. And the next inhale, we're going to reverse that swan dive, hinging from the hips, coming up into a standing position, and exhaling into chair. Inhaling back up into mountain, and as we exhale into a forward fold, swan diving down, we're going to place our hands on the mat, bending our knees as deep as we need to, and coming into an all-fours position. We're going to do a cat-cow position as we make sure our knees are underneath our hips, our hands are underneath our shoulders. We're going to inhale as we drop our belly and our forehead and tailbone point towards the ceiling. As we exhale, we're going to arch our spine in the opposite direction, coming into a cat-like position. Arching our backs like a scared cat. Inhaling up back into cow. Exhaling into cat. Try pushing our weight a little into our hands, rocking forward and feeling a stretch in between our shoulders. Inhaling, imagine a weight dropping from our bellies, pulling it towards the mat. Exhaling once more into cat. And on the inhale, we'll come into a neutral all-fours position. And we'll exhale as we drop our hips and widen our knees into a child's pose. Extending our arms out away from our shoulders, feeling a great stretch in the lower back, widening our knees as wide as we need to allow our hips to come all the way down to our heels. On the next inhale, we'll come up from child's pose in all four, aligning our knees once more underneath our hips, shoulders over our hands. We're going to tuck our toes and exhale as we lift our hips up into a down dog position, making a V with our bodies. Keeping a nice bend in the knees, we still warm up our hamstrings. Imagine pointing the tailbone towards the ceiling as our backs flatten to the point that we match the level of our arms here. We're going to shake our head from side to side. Our biceps should be right next to our ears. We're going to inhale high on the toes as we exhale just the right heel down. Inhale back up as we exhale the left heel, matching the breath with the movement, continuing the flow. Make sure our hands are spread like a starfish wide with our middle fingers pointed forwards. Imagine pressing the weight in our hands into the backs of our knuckles. Inhaling high on both of our toes, we're going to look forward in between our hands as we swing our body forward, rock our right foot into a lunge position. Our back leg is straight. Imagine forming a straight line from the crown of our head to our left heel. On the next exhale, we're going to swing that left leg up into a forward fold. Inhale, reverse the swan dive into a mountain. Pressing our palms together as we exhale our hands into heart center. On the next inhale, we'll circle sweep our arms up and then reverse our swan dive back into a forward fold. Pressing our palms onto the mat, bending our knees as deep as we need to do this. We're going to step back with the right foot in a runner's lunge. Straightening the back leg, making sure that our front knee is over our front ankle. And then dropping our palms all the way down, we're going to swing that left leg back into a down dog. This time maybe bringing the heels a little closer to the mat. Pressing our backs flat, attempting to take the roundness out of the lower back here. And as we inhale, we're going to come into a plank position with our shoulders over our hands. We can drop our knees here, coming into a kneeling plank. Or keep our knees high. Once again, forming a straight line from the crown of our head to our heels. And from here, we're going to exhale into a crocodile, bringing our elbows in towards our rib cage, coming down to a push-up, and then drop onto our bellies as we open up, arching our back into cobra. Pressing our palms into the mat, we're going to push our hips back to our heels, widening our knees in child's pose. Taking a few deep breaths here. Really feeling the diaphragm expand as we inhale to our full potential. And then squeezing out all the oxygen, pulling our navel towards our spine to really expel all the used H2O. On the next inhale, we'll come up into all fours position. And as we exhale, we're going to drop our hips down into a seated position, rolling forward, seated with our legs extending forward. We're going to come into a boat position as we bend our legs. Our heels are about 2 feet away from our hips. We're going to rock a little back on our sit bones as we extend away from our hips, sitting up tall, placing our hands behind our thighs. Balancing our toes a few inches off of the mat. Staying here in boat pose. Or we can parallel our shins with the mat, continuing to engage our core in this pose, breathing strong. And if we like, we can take our hands away from our thighs, or we can straighten our legs, making a boat pose. It's okay if your legs shake a little. Just back off, perhaps bending our knees once more or placing our hands behind our thighs. Coming out of the pose as controlled as we came into it. And releasing our legs straight out in front of us, sitting up tall once more. We're going to come into a spinal twist as we bend the left leg. Sitting up tall, we're going to place the left foot on the right side of the right knee. Kicking the left hand behind us like a kickstand, our hand's about 5 to 6 inches away from our hip. Place the right elbow on the left side of the left knee. We're going to imagine rotating our rib cage like a Rubik's Cube. The bottom deck first, our hips. Our middle deck is our rib cage. And the last deck, our shoulders and head. Evenly and gently progressing the spine into a twist. Holding ourselves here with our muscles, not so much our arms. So if we were to release the support in our arms, we could still maintain this position. Exhaling slowly out of the spinal twist. We're going to straighten the left leg now. Inhale as we bend the right. Sitting up tall and evenly on both our sit bones, we're going to place the right foot on the left side of the left knee. Keeping that right hand behind us, keeping our shoulders and hips square to the front of the mat. Our right hand is about 5 to 6 inches away from our hip. We're going to place our left elbow on the right side of the right knee. Inhale, sitting up tall. Exhale as we twist first our rib cage. And lastly, our shoulders. Continuing to sit up tall. Looking back over our left shoulder. And on the next exhale, we're going to slowly unwind from the spinal twist. Relaxing our hands, straightening our right leg. Scoot a little forward on our mat. We're going to bend just the right knee, placing our hands behind the thigh as we roll down, rounding our lower backs. Coming into a lying down position, making sure our shoulders are sliding down away from our ears. We're going to pull both of our knees in towards our chest with our hands behind our thighs. Pulling the tailbone up off of the mat. Perhaps rocking side to side to massage the lower back. And from here, we're going to wrap our arms around the outside of our knees if we can. Rocking our forehead up to our knees, making a tight ball with our body. And then exhale as we release, bringing our feet to the mat. Placing our heels about 5 or 6 inches away from our hips, we're going to inhale our hips up into bridge pose. Really pressing our pelvis towards the ceiling. Holding here for a few breaths. Imagine pushing from the insides of our soles of our feet to keep our knees aligned with our hips. We have a tendency to want to splay out in this pose. Engaging the inner thigh. And on the next exhale, we'll slowly return to the mat, one vertebrae at a time. Drawing our knees in towards our chest once more. And then exhale, straightening our legs out in front of us. Finding a completely relaxed pose. Letting our feet and our hands roll open. Coming into a final resting pose called Savasana. Really take a few minutes here, at least 3 or 4 minutes, to absorb the benefits of the organized motion we have just arranged for ourselves. Connecting our mind and our body as we move with our breath. Bringing our attention now solely inwards to our breath. Eliminating any attached or wandering thoughts. And when you're ready for more, we can blink our eyes. Coming back to reality, wiggling our toes and our fingers. Rolling over onto our right side. Coming into a fetal position. Bending our knees towards our chest. Pressing our top hand and straightening our top leg. Coming into a seated position. Folding our feet in front of us. We're going to inhale as we sit up tall. Bring our arms up over our head. Palms touch as we exhale our hands into heart center. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. Like and share my video. Hopefully there'll be more. I'm getting good, right? Gotta start somewhere.